Why do we think that questioning religion is a sin? Why do we believe that if we question it, we will be punished, not only in this life, but even after death? Why does this thought exist so deeply inside us? From childhood, we are taught that certain questions should never be asked. Not because they are wrong questions, but because they are dangerous questions. When humans try to understand existence, we often reach one conclusion. Existence cannot exist without a creator. And that sounds logical. But the moment we accept that logic, another question automatically appears. If everything needs a creator, then who created the creator? And right there, we stop. Not because the question is stupid, not because it lacks logic, but because we've been trained to believe that this question itself is a sin. To understand why this happens, we need to understand one core concept: fear. Fear is the foundation of this entire system. Religion, at its core, is not just belief. It is a system built on fear. Fear of punishment, fear of hell, fear of divine anger, fear of questioning. As I explained in my earlier video, religion didn't appear randomly. Wherever it was created, it came with rules. Rules designed to control society. But here's the smart part. These rules were not connected to any worldly government. They were connected directly to God, to a divine power, and to life after death. Because governments can fail, kings can be overthrown, but fear of God? That stays forever. So whenever a human thinks about committing a crime or breaking a rule, a thought appears. I might get away with this now, but I will pay for it after death. This fear works even when no one is watching. That's why religion was effective. Now the same fear is applied to thinking. Whenever we even think, can religion be wrong? Can Jesus be wrong? Can Muhammad be wrong? Can the God we imagine be wrong? Can Ram be wrong? Two situations appear in our mind. The first one is weak. Maybe I can think about this. The second one is much stronger. What if this is a sin? And that second voice always wins, because that voice is fear. This is how questioning religion was slowly turned into a sin, and that is exactly why religions continue almost unchanged for centuries. Apart from minor adjustments, no religion has ever gone through a major internal correction, not because they are perfect, but because they are protected by fear. Now let's look at how this fear operates in the real world. Let me tell you a small story. A poor man walks into a place of worship. It doesn't matter whether it's a church, a mosque, or a temple. He barely earns enough to survive. His life is already full of suffering. He listens to the preacher talk about sin, punishment, and judgment after death. And then comes the solution. Donate. Give charity. God is watching. The man hesitates. But then fear kicks in. What if I don't donate? What if my sins increase? What if I'm punished after death? So he gives what little he has. Not because he has extra money, but because fear is more powerful than hunger. And the most dangerous part? He walks out feeling relieved. Because fear didn't just take his money, it gave him peace. And a system that can sell peace through fear never wants people to start asking questions. This fear of judgment after death is directly converted into funding. Churches, mosques, temples, every religious institution runs almost entirely on charity. The rich donate, the poor donate. Even those who have nothing still donate. Why? Because they believe that even if life is hard now, they will be rewarded after death. Now imagine this for a moment. If people truly started believing that religion is human-made, not divine, but a social construct, what would happen? Charity would stop. Funding would collapse. Institutions would weaken. And that would lead to rebellion. Rebellion against priests. Rebellion against religious scholars. Rebellion against authority. That is why fear is intensified whenever questioning begins. In many Muslim societies, if someone questions religion, the narrative quickly becomes, foreign powers are behind this. This person is dangerous. Why? Because once questioning becomes foreign, it stops being intellectual and becomes political. This tactic is powerful. It turns thinkers into enemies. It shifts the focus away from the question itself and places fear directly on the person asking it. And when fear reaches that level, people don't debate anymore. They silence, sometimes socially, sometimes violently. And suddenly, questioning becomes a threat to life. Western societies are slightly better in this regard, but even there, religion is heavily monetized. Televangelists, megachurches, motivational sermons, all still revolve around the same formula. Fear plus hope equals money. My point is very simple. Questioning religion is not a sin, but we were taught that it is a sin. Because if people stop fearing questions, entire systems collapse. Businesses collapse, institutions collapse, power structures collapse. Our emotions were rebranded. Curiosity was turned into sin. Thinking was turned into fear. And now that fear does not allow us to go beyond a certain limit. That limit is not divine. That limit is man-made. But all of this, control, money, propaganda, silence, still depends on one thing. A single fear. The fear of what happens after death. That fear is the strongest weapon ever created. It works when you're alive. It works when no one is watching. It works even when logic fails. And as long as humans fear punishment after death, they will accept rules without evidence, answers without questions, and authority without proof. Questioning religion doesn't destroy society. Fear does. Because a belief that cannot survive a question was never sacred. It was protected.